We all experience grief in our lives, especially when we lose a loved one. It's a journey, and how we process it directly impacts our health and those around us. This month, Ohio's Hospice LifeCare begins a 7-week series called Faces of Grief. David Hargrave.
Morning.
And he is leading the series. David, Faces of Grief is open to the public, adults. Why was it so important to launch this?
Good morning, Damon. Thank you for having me on. This is a very important question. As you know, there is a lot of grief and a lot of loss that we've all experienced in our society. And this group is an opportunity to help adults that are grieving or supporting someone who is grieving process that grief.
Processed in many ways, we know, processed or unprocessed, and how does that set us up for success or failure?
Um, that's another really good question. Grief blocks untold human potential and growth opportunities. So when we are grieving, and you may have heard the term, we're not ourselves or I was not myself. But when a person is grieving unprocessed or unintegrated loss, it impacts our interpersonal relationships, our ability to focus, creativity. And so it's important that we have healthy opportunities and avenues to process and acknowledge that grief. Our society in general is grief and death averse. We're uncomfortable. It makes us feel awkward. But the path forward is really being able to integrate those losses.
And David, many topics are going to be discussed here. One of the topics, myths about grief, also secondary losses. Can you briefly touch on those?
Yes. So there are a lot of common myths regarding grief and the grieving process. And one of those is that talking about our deceased person only makes the pain last longer. Another common myth is that if to work through our grief means putting our loved one out of our mind and moving forward. That's a myth. In fact, in order to move forward in a healthy way, it's about finding those ways to keep a sense of connection or show that our loved one mattered. I like to say, and this quote is not original to me, but our loved one's death ended a life, not a relationship. So that myth that resolving or working through means putting them out of my mind is really not helpful. And one more common myth that I'd like to mention is regarding children. There's this idea that it's better to shield and protect children from loss, but that is untrue. The research shows that if a child is old enough to love, they're old enough to grieve. And so providing those opportunities to address these myths, to normalize the grieving process is a significant part of grief integration.
David, there is so much to get into. We appreciate your time today, and we're going to link folks to much more information on our website. Again, the Faces of Grief series is beginning on the 13th of September at Ohio's Hospice LifeCare at 1900 Akron Road in Worcester. This is free and open to the public, but registration is required. Again, we'll have more information on our website and our News 5 app.